listeners to the BizBlend podcast where strategy meets soul and hustle meets heart. I'm your host Sana, as always, and today's episode, listeners, it dives deep into the intersection of leadership and martial arts with none other than Bogdan Rosu. He's a high performance coach, martial artist, podcast host, and also author of the upcoming book, Greatness and Mastery 10 Martial Arts plus Leadership Principles that give you the edge to join the top 0.01% without sacrificing your freedom. So let me share a bit about Bogdan with all of you, from coaching $120 million entrepreneurs to creating the world's first personal development through martial arts program. Bogdan has empowered over 1,000 leaders to unlock their potential and also achieve breakthroughs, not just by keeping on adding more hustle, but by thinking like a black belt. Well, so if you are driven, ambitious, but you're tired of choosing between success and freedom, I hope this conversation will give you those insights needed. So, with that, Bogdan, welcome to the show. And as always, it is an honor to have you with us.
And beautiful to meet you again digitally. I was just about to say to see you again, but then I realized, wait, it's an audio podcast. Um First off, let me just say how much I love your taglines for this show. I mean, I've never heard strategy meets soul and hustle meets heart. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bogdan. And yeah, for the sake of our listeners as well, maybe we can have the next of our podcast on video. That will be really, really exciting. Because yes, of course, audio is something, but then through video, I think it's more of a human-based connection that we can have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Audio is more mysterious for sure.
Very important. Okay, okay. So, um, how exactly did you got into the world of martial arts? Then I'll come into leadership, but what exactly motivated you to be a part of martial arts?
Well, you know that saying that you choose your parents, right? Before you
Mhm.
come into this physical
Yeah.
life. I believe that to be true because I believe that we choose to, before, coming into physical experience, we're like, okay, I would really love to explore this theme. So for me, this theme was obviously leadership and martial arts. At least that's kind of the theme that I'm exploring right now. But for
Mhm.
that to happen, I needed to have a mother that um very much raised my cousin, right? And my mother, growing up in a communism environment, you can imagine like praise was very scarce inside our household. But when it came to my cousin, who was like 19 years older than me, she was like, "Oh my God, he's so great, he's so awesome." And when I was a kid, I just wanted not to be like my cousin. I wanted to be my cousin. And
Oh,
my cousin was also, and still is, a black belt in karate, right?
oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, okay, if I want to be like my cousin, then I probably need to start learning martial arts. But I, I didn't start. There wasn't a karate school at the time in my hometown, right? The karate school where my cousin studied. We were both in the same city. That school had closed down, like really old school, like rugged training, like high quality training. But
Mhm.
that school wasn't open any longer. So what I started with was this acrobatic martial arts style. But the funny part is that the guy, like the flyer said karate, jujitsu, judo, ninjutsu, taekwondo. Like, I think like the guy just like put all the martial arts names that he knew. He put them on a flyer, and he was the one teaching all of these styles, right? But
Wow.
what it actually was just a bunch of Jean-Claude Van Damme wannabes trying to kind of imitate what the guy saw in the movies. I mean, he was
Yeah.
pretty skilled at fighting. He was really, he was quite skilled,
Mm,
but none of us could reach his level. Like none of us had any confidence, any actual martial arts skill. Until my cousin took me aside one day, it's like, look, your punches are horrible. You have absolutely no power. You have absolutely no balance. I don't know what you're doing there. I could do backflips and like flying kicks and stuff like that. It's like, look, if you ever get into a fight on the street, you better pray to God first. But kind of like at the same time, when my cousin said that to me, his former teacher opened his karate school again, right? So I quit the acrobatic stuff, started doing karate. Karate was exceptional in terms of making me stronger, faster. Like I really took to heart what my cousin was doing. To become one of the best, right? He was the first to show up at training, last to leave when everybody was taking a break. He was training. So I started doing the same thing, right? So in a very, very short time, I was kind of the same level with the guys who had started before me, right? Actually, the school opened, I think, 1.5 years earlier than when I joined, right? So these guys had a huge advantage over me, but I quickly became one of the best in the school.
mhm,
But later, when I left Romania to study in Greece in Crete, I wanted to continue with karate, but then I found Wing Chun, and I was shocked to learn that that was Bruce Lee's first martial arts style. Like the speed, the power, the structure, all of it came from Wing Chun. So I fell in love with that, and that's how I eventually became a Wing Chun Sifu, a teacher.
mhm. Wow. You know, your storytelling is so articulate because I could picturize all those moments of confusion and then that obsession with, you just don't would be like your cousin, but you wanted to be your cousin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
moment of realization and transition. So that's really wonderful. But then you also explore leadership in your book. So how exactly the principle of martial arts fuse into leadership in our daily lives or for the leaders?
Mhm, mhm. Great question. Well, they're actually when you start to see how they complement each other, it becomes a very, very, very powerful combination, right? To give you an example, and let me know if we touched upon this previously in your other podcasts. Um, Leadership to me means understanding very deeply what your team's dreams, hopes, and fears are, right? And becoming an active component to helping them achieve their visions, their highest visions for their lives. Even if that means them going and starting their own businesses, even if that means them leaving the company because they cannot grow any longer, and then starting a new adventure, right? Your job as a leader is to prepare them and sometimes even open the door and say, hey, I have Mary. She's an exceptional high performer. I think she would be amazing for your company, right? And recommending this person. I think that's a huge selling point for somebody who is a high performer and joins your company and say, hey, John actually worked here. He started his own company. Now he's making like millions because of what he learned here, right? That for a high performer in the job interview is exceptionally attractive, right? Um, because they all of a sudden they see you as a launch pad. Now, for you to be able to help your team to achieve their highest vision, you have to be an extremely talented listener
Oh, understood.
and know. when to shut the fuck up. Right? So here's where the martial arts part comes in. In Wing Chun, you actually learn to be extremely sensitive. Because like imagine I'm placing my left hand on your right forearm, let's say, right? So what you learn in Wing Chun is that when you've created this bridge, you can immediately feel what the person is about to do with their other arm, or with the same arm, or with their leg, or with their kick, and immediately act to block the kick or the punch or whatever is coming, right? You're that sensitive. So, what you're learning is to listen, not just with your eyes or your ears, you're listening with your whole body, with your whole being. Mm? And that's exceptionally powerful when you're having a conversation because it allows you to not just read between the lines, but
Mhm.
this observer perspective of stepping back, it allows you to kind of be guided by your intuition in a direction that neither yourself or the person that you're leading, that you're helping, you're having a conversation with, you don't know that you're going to go in that direction at the start of the conversation. It might be completely different than, the initial topic, but it is extremely relevant, right?
Yeah.
So n- I was shocked to see, like, I've had many coaches myself, and I was shocked to see how rare this skill actually is. Because everybody wants to tell you what to do, but nobody really takes the time to see you like at a soul level and say, hey, what if we tried this? But actually, you tune into the exact perfect thing, the perfect element that that person needs in that moment, right? So that's exceptionally powerful. Now, another concept from Wing Chun
Mhm.
is the idea of blending offense and defense in the same motion, right? And attacking and defending at the same time. Now, in a sparring scenario, it is extremely hard to do, right? But once you get the hang of it, you get into this mindset of both offense and defense, right? Some people say offense is the best defense. Correct. But if your defense is bad,
Mhm.
right? You're in a very, very bad situation. Let's say, you set a goal to whatever, 10x the company, right? And you're like, guys, let's work, 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 work. And all you're doing is going on the offense. Guess what? Your systems are getting worse. Your procedures are getting worse. You are making more sales. You are hiring more people. But the stability of the company is getting damaged. And maybe you hit your 10x goal, but then the next quarter, you don't have a company anymore because it just collapses upon itself, right? So you gain this ability of knowing when to move and when to sit, which is very valuable.
There are so many examples of that. So many examples, just mindlessly expanding and expanding, and seeing exceptionally, stellar growth numbers and figures and profits in there. But then the next quarter, you don't have a company at all. From 1 billion,
Hmm.
from 100 billion, you are now at zero. Yeah, there have been examples.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. Like somebody who's like very successful in the personal development space.
Mhm.
Um, he confessed that the company was doing over 1 million a year, but he was eating canned beans with his wife because he just couldn't afford anything else.
Okay.
He was paying the ads, right? He was paying the team, but the profit wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, is that good growth, like healthy growth? Probably not, right? So what you want is to like even like let's say you're sparring, right? In martial arts. If all you're doing is attacking, guess what? Every single time you attack, you're also exposing yourself to be attacked. right?
Yeah.
Every yin has a yang. So you have to be mindful of every time you go on the defense, you're also exposing the company's weaknesses. You have to be mindful of that, right?
That's true. And uh, then this is a very very old, not exactly saying, but a kind of teaching which our elders, they have been teaching, that when you are successful, when people start to notice you, that's when the most vulnerable you are, and you should be prepared for
Mm,
vulnerable moments.
mm-hmm.
That time people will
Yep.
start pointing out your mistakes, even if you haven't done any one of them. So, yeah.
Yes. And that is a huge, huge, huge trap. One of the reasons why like people feel stuck, right? That's kind of where I step in when you're stuck. Why are you stuck? Because deep down, you cannot avoid the truth. And the truth is that you feel you're going to be more exposed and more vulnerable when you will have the goals because you haven't yet done the required work to be stable and happy and fulfilled with where you are, to see yourself as a winner, right? Because I talk about in the book, why do you need to fall in love with the journey? Everybody says the journey is the reward, blah blah, right? But there's actually something like there's very practical reasons to why you need to fall in love with the journey. Meaning, um, let's say you make the goal the reward, right?
Hmm.
You get the goal, you're so happy, so proud of yourself, and you stop doing the work. But your competition doesn't stop doing the work, right? Or you don't get the goal, you get disappointed,
Hmm.
right? And you stop doing the work. Or you get the goal and you're like, is this all there is? I thought I was going to be happy. I thought I was going to be fulfilled. I thought my life is going to be amazing. And yet I'm still miserable, right? That's extremely painful. And what happens? You stop doing the work. But if the work becomes the reward, it doesn't matter if you're making 100,000 a year, if you're making a million a year, if you're making 10 billion a year, if you lose everything, it doesn't matter because you're getting all of that reward, all of that joy from showing up and doing the work. It's not easy,
What do you say?
but it's very practical.
And with that, my next question comes. You say the top 0.01% mindset. I mean, I have, till now, I have heard so many rarities, that there aren't many great listeners or observers out there. Maybe that
Mm.
kind of justifies the percentage here, but what exactly, if I want to be a part of this top 0.01% mindset, what kind of qualities or skills should I have as a leader?
Mm, beautiful question. First off, it starts by defining what does that mean to you
Okay.
personally. Hmm? Because um again, someone like the people who are at the absolute top, and we kind of touched upon this in our previous interview of like the number one people in MMA, for example, they're very humble, right? They're very happy, right? They really enjoy what they're doing. So that's one element, right? But secondly, like the people who are really at the top, it's rare that they set a goal to be a billionaire, right? To have a $1 trillion company. And in most cases, the output, the outcome, was a result of just them really deeply loving what they were doing. So that's
Mhm.
the first one, right? It kind of circles back to what we touched upon. Like, if you make the goal the reward, you're never
Mhm.
going to be in the top 0.01% because you're always going to be tempted to stop, right? But if you
Mm.
just love what you're doing, like the idea is show up if one person is listening, show up if the whole planet is listening. The whole like show up exactly the same with the same enthusiasm, with the same passion, with the same excitement, right? Again, it's not easy to some people are born with this, right? They're naturally unconsciously gifted in just saying, "Screw it, I'm fine, like, the money's gonna take care of itself, I'm just gonna follow my heart," right? For example, Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
Um, he was always moving with life and following his intuition, following his excitement. It was never in still, he talks about it to this day, like, it was never his intention to be the number 1 podcast in the world. It was just an outcome of him following his passion, his excitement.
Yeah.
Without expectation, without insistence on something specific happening. In a way, it's the power of paradox, you
Mhm.
know? The less you want an outcome and you're thinking about, "Okay, I need to get this, I need to get that," the more you get it, you know what I mean?
Mm. That's really, really. I think yes, that is gifted in some way or the other. But do you think it can be changed? Um, even if, let's say, I've achieved my goal, I
Mhm.
feel like, okay, I have done something really good. This kind of, internally uplifts me. And then I decide to take a bit of rest, pause, and then maybe I'll think what to do next. Do you think it still uh, is doesn't make me a part of that 0.1% mindset
You know
of
what? Let's make this a bit more practical, the saying, "The more personal, the more universal."
uh
Um, what does that mean to Sana? Right? Being a top 0.1% leader.
okay. Okay, I think for me it is about not giving up because I have had so many situations where I could give up. I had
Mhm,
actually given up, but then something within me, even I myself don't know, something within me just helped me to, move forward. And that not only it's in my adulthood, but also in my childhood. Um, you know,
mhm,
I have had this obsession, especially because my parents they had a lot of expectations from me that I need
right.
to be on top of my class
Mhm,
every
mhm,
quarter or every semester, and every class, from like to junior to high school and all. So, and I had changed 3 schools in my lifetime, so
mhm,
4 schools. So every new school I'm going, um, every new school I'm going, it's new environment. It's I had to make new friends. I had to
mhm,
build that rapport with my teachers and kids. So the initial, 2 quarters, I used to not achieve the goals, but then I always used to achieve what I had dreamt in the
mhm,
um, final attempt, and
right.
kind of build that resilience within me as I grew up. Okay, even if I am not on the top of the class or
Mhm,
not a top performer in my company, or I'm not performing brilliantly as per the standards met, I am still on the top in my own world. I'm not giving
mhm,
up here. I guess that
right.
would be
So here's the good news. You're already halfway there to being a top leader.
okay. Well, okay.
What is required is that you have, in a sense, it helps to have parents who need you to be perfect,
Hmm.
right? So you learn how to perform at a high level, but like everything has a yin and yang, right? But looking at the proof of who you are,
Hmm.
right? Like you said, hey, you need a bit of time and space to adjust to the new environment, but once you get comfortable with the rules of the game,
Mhm.
then you perform. You're one of the best automatically, right? Because that is who you are,
Yep.
right? What might be causing a bit of uncertainty right now is the difference in the environment. Because compared to school, right? School is very cut and dry. Like, do this, do that, you're gonna get an A, right?
Mhm.
Very easy, very simple. You have the teacher, like, follow very simple rules, you're gonna be a top performer. Business is very different and life is very different because you have millions of people giving sometimes very contradictory advice on what the rules of the game are. And it can be extremely hard to know who is the right teacher
Exactly.
and
That's
what is the right rule set, right?
right.
But from a physical perspective, it is wise to choose one teacher that you resonate with the most and
Mhm.
kind of follow that rule set until it is no longer relevant, right? It's kind of like getting having that set of teacher for like 1 to 4th grade, right? And then you graduated, then you change the teacher from 4th to 8th grade, something like that, kind of that analogy. However, the person that will be most competent in guiding you from a metaphysical perspective is going to be your future super successful self, your black belt, right? That person who has already achieved the dream and can handle the goals, right? So, one of my favorite rituals is to kind of connect with that person and ask them, like, hey, what would you do in this situation? What would be the steps, right?
Okay.
Now, here's the art, right? Sometimes you will get guidance and you will follow that guidance and it will lead you on a path that doesn't make sense, on a path that is maybe more stressful, more challenging, more unstable than where you were initially. It is not a time to doubt the guidance. It is not a time to doubt your intuition because if you believe that life loves you and wants you to win, then you are there for a very, very important reason. And usually the reason is that you need to learn something to gain a skill or multiple skills from this quote unquote more negative experience that will serve you later on when you are closer to the goal or when you do have the goal. But without those skills, you wouldn't be able to maintain the goal. Is this making sense?
Yeah, it is. It is. Able to get the idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that said, what do you think is required to become a top 0.01% leader?
I believe it's my mindset, because yes, I am a bit uh, not fluid in terms of adapting to different environments,
Mhm.
um, or difficult situations. Sometimes I keep
Mhm.
on losing the sense of what to do next, and that has
Mhm.
certainly affected my um, you know plan or my course of actions during these years.
Yeah.
But then I'm learning from all those setbacks. That I believe
Mhm.
is making me going on like this, or else I would have given up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So that comes back to like being like taking information from different teachers, but ultimately being your own teacher, right? And trusting your heart, trusting your intuition. Again, Elon Musk didn't set out to be the Elon Musk we know today. It's like, okay, cool, exciting. I want to create a payment processing business. That's exciting. That sounds fun. That looks like something I would be good at. he created what we now know as PayPal, right? And then like, oh, electric cars are cool. I think we can do that. Let's experiment. Let's play it, right? So all of these leaders have mastered the idea of listening to their heart and embracing challenge because like keep in mind, Elon almost lost everything with SpaceX, right? They were down to their last rocket. If that didn't work, um, like all of his money would be gone. You can imagine how stressful that was. But that was the training he needed to become Elon,
That's true. That's true.
right? So if everything, whether it's quote unquote positive or quote unquote negative,
Mhm.
everything is serving you, then why would we treat it with resistance, with why is this happening to me? Why isn't this easy? And why not just treat it with, oh, hmm, there's a new dungeon to this game that I haven't explored. How exciting. Let's dive in, right? Let's see what happens. Let's see how deep we can go in this stinky dungeon, right?
Let's get to the unknown. Let's test the waters.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how deep can we go, right? What can we learn from this? What are the rewards, right? If you play a video game and you run into a cave, you're not gonna be like, "Oh shit, not a cave. What am I gonna do?" You're like, "Oh, there's treasure inside. Let's see what happens," right?
Oh, great. Great talking. So before we wrap up, if our listeners they
Here's
would, yeah, yeah, go
here's
ahead.
something that I think will massively serve you.
Uh-huh.
Remember who you are. Remember that despite all of the uncertain moments in your life, that you always found your footing and you always found yourself in these new circumstances. This is no different.
True. Great.
How did that
And
feel?
that definitely feels powerful. Definitely feels powerful.
Mm,
And it's healing.
Because
It's healing and powerful at the same moment.
because you're tuning into your real self.
Yeah.
And your real self is behind a veil of fear and uncertainty.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So make it a habit at work. I would personally make it a habit to allow that version of you to lead more.
Hmm. That's really great, Bogdan. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, if our listeners would like to get a hold of your upcoming book, when should they expect it? And how they can get a hold of it?
That's a good question. So chapter 1 and 2 are already available. Through the link in the description, they can get immediate access to that and to a few more resources. I would love their feedback on chapter 1 or 2. Um, the book is halfway done, I would say. So maybe in a couple of weeks it will be ready, and then in a few more weeks will be probably it depends on how long it takes to make it nice, make it look nice on the inside, not just on the outside, yeah. So let's just say 90 days to 2 months for safety. But like I said, chapter 1 and 2 are already extremely powerful. A lot of what we talked about today are in the first two chapters.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Great. I'll make sure to have everything in the show notes. And Bogdan, thank you so, so much for this really personally inspiring episode for me as well on BizBlend. Um, I mean, you're beautifully, I mean, with your story, with your journey, and then the insights from the world of martial arts, how they fuse with leadership. I think this was really, really such an inspiring conversation today.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. And by the way, how many episodes in are you with this podcast?
Oh, I mean, it will be more than 500, I guess.
There you go. So Here's some more good news. You're already very, very close to being in the 0.01% because 90% of podcasters never go past episode 10, right?
Yes, I
And
agree.
then 90% of those people who get past episode 10 don't get past episode 100. So, hey, you're really, really close. It's time to get yourself some slack.
But then I'm not going to stop.
Why would you? This is so fun, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, Bogdan. And to all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of BizBlend. Thank you to all of you for being a part of the BizBlend podcast. Do check out the first two chapters of Bogdan's book, Greatness and Mastery. I'll have the links in the show notes. And also, don't forget to check out his podcast, Stories from Your Future Self. And keep an eye out for the book launch as well. Until next time, this is your host, Sana on BizBlend. Thank you.